Let's go to Beirut now and speak to our correspondent, Leila Molana-Allen. Leila, tell us more about Hariri's speech.
Well, it was very short and to the point. He said that he would be presenting his resignation to President Michel Aoun at Babda Palace. And he then spoke about how it was very important that the politicians that are left behind preserve the country, protect the country, and keep promoting its economic interests, because there have been improvements in this recently, and he said he wanted that to carry on. And he ended with the famous words of his father, Rafik Hariri, who is credited with bringing the country back together after the civil war. He said, "No man is bigger than his country." And then he ended saying, "May God protect Lebanon." So at this point, we are waiting to hear whether President Michel Aoun accepts that resignation or not, and what's going to happen next.
What was the reaction of protesters when he announced this?
You may be able to see and hear behind me, the reaction was huge. Cheers, screams erupted across the street. People were letting off green and red flares, the colors of the Lebanese flag. Drumming began. They started shouting "Thawra, Thawra," which means revolution. And then they all, without any music, together sang the Lebanese national anthem. People were hugging, they were crying. I then spoke to some protesters here and I said, "How do you feel?" The first person said to me, "I feel free." And one of her friends interrupted and said, "No, freer. This is only the beginning. This is the first step. Now we want each and every one by one, and we will not stop until they're all gone." The chant here has been "Killon yani Killon." That means all of them, and that is really what these protests have been about. No sectarian divisions, no supporting one politician over another. They want the entire political class gone and a new kind of government.
Leila, what's the role of Hezbollah been in all of this?
Well, Hezbollah has been in a tricky position because traditionally Hezbollah and Hassan Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, have presented themselves as men of the people, not part of the political elites. But because Hezbollah is more important in this government, or has been, we don't right now know what's happening with this government, with this cabinet, but has been more powerful since the last election in government than it ever has been in Lebanon before, Nasrallah has been in a very tricky position. And in his last couple of speeches, he disappointed a lot of people, angered a lot of people by saying, "We would normally be in the streets protesting with you, but we cannot afford to let this government fall because the economic collapse would be a disaster," using lots of scare tactics, saying civil war will come again. Many people saying that's just because he wants to retain his party's power. And then, of course, we have seen sectarian supporters of Hezbollah and Amal, the other big Shia group, who've been coming to attack protesters, peaceful protesters here. And that's really what we saw earlier today. We have the army that you can just see passing behind me here. That's why everyone's cheering, because they are big fans of the army and they feel the army are on their side. But to carry on, earlier today, we had sectarian Hezbollah supporters coming down on motorbikes and attacking protesters here. Much higher level of violence than there has been before. They destroyed all the protest camps in downtown Beirut. It was absolute chaos. They set fire to them. They started attacking protesters with sticks. The army had to send in huge numbers of extra forces with tear gas. They managed to disperse them using flash bombs eventually and push them back. But it's been a much higher escalation, and that is one of the reasons we think that Saad Hariri resigned today, because he had said he would resign if there was any more extreme violence like this.
All right, thank you very much indeed for bringing us the very latest from Beirut. Leila Molana-Allen there.